Welcome to Behind the Recipe. I'm your host, Christina Hitchcock. Join me every week as we dive into the joys of cooking, explore kitchen tips and tricks, and share delicious recipes that will inspire your next meal. So whether you're a seasoned cook or just learning your way around the stove, there's something here for everyone. Today, we're talking with Laura Tobin from Your Guardian Chef about Italian cooking, and I'm very excited for this. So welcome to the show, Laura.
Hi, thank you for having me. That's going to be a fun podcast, I'm
I
sure.
I can't wait. Well, before we get started, why don't you tell everybody a little bit about yourself?
Yeah. So I'm a food blogger and a YouTuber, and I blog about the Italian cuisine from an Italian perspective. So I'm Italian. My last name actually is Giunta. Tobin is it's easier for everybody worldwide to know. And I grew up in Rome in the 70s, 80s. Originally I'm from Calabria, so I've been in the south quite a lot. And then I moved to Milan. In 1992, in 1981, I left Italy and I moved abroad. I'm what is called the fuga di cervelli, so the professional that leave Italy to go abroad and to pursue a career.
Uh-huh.
And so my the name of the blog is Your Guardian Chef, but I'm not a chef. I'm actually an engineer. But I wanted to put the link between the Italian cooking and the religions because it is very tight. You know, the festivity, the fasting, a lot of
Yeah.
recipes there's a lot of link there. So I lived in UK, US, Norway, France, and I settled now just 40 minutes from the Italian frontiers. And I'm very religious. I go do my shopping once a month to Italy, just 40 minutes away. And then when I drive down to see my mom, I always stopped in various places to buy produce from the local produce. Napoli, of course, for the mozzarella, it's a
Mm.
must. So, food is like a religious for us Italian.
Yeah, well, I'm half Italian and half Norwegian. So it's funny that you
Oh,
said you've lived in
really?
Norway too. So I actually have family that lives in Norway. But I'm very excited to talk about this because I love just hearing stories and learning about food. Because like I learned about Italian cuisine essentially from my grandmother, but she passed away when I was young. So um I didn't get to share my food journey with her. So I love to talk with other people about that and learn, the stories behind food and how things came about and how they've evolved over time. So today's discussion has me quite intrigued, but I love that you've lived all over the world.
Yeah, so I have the experience as an Italian living abroad. I know what I
Yeah,
mean looking for Italian food abroad and all the hoops and that you have to go through. But I mean, I want to say that I'm not a purist. I
right.
mean, if you put bacon instead of guanciale for the carbonara, I'm not, you know. And I do believe because one of the principle of the Italian cuisine is actually to use local produce. So actually, if you have a good local produce that you want to, transform the recipe, it's the right things to do.
Right.
It's the appropriation of names that, for me, it just drives me crazy. So, for example, there was once a discussion on Reddit,
Hmm.
and there was this guy how to use the pressure cooker. So, oh, you can make a wonderful risotto, and I was like, no, I cannot make risotto on the pressure cooker because risotto you have to add the stock, gradually, and the
Right.
pressure cooker you have to put all together, so you can't. Oh, I've been voted down, and now actually because of that comment. I have a very low score in Reddit. I can't say anything
Oh
because
no.
so that's it's really funny. But there are some of the things that I see like the guanciale. I'm sure there must have been the commercial. I grew up in Rome and in the 70s. So as a teenager, you make carbonara because it's easy.
Hmm.
You have friends over, you have eggs and bacon or guanciale, whatever in the fridge, you make it. So if you use guanciale or bacon, it's not a big deal.
Right.
Or pecorino or parmigiano, whatever you have in the house really is. But I think behind some of the very strict rules, there is a commercial push. So brands that try to push their product, and
Hmm.
then they they push for, through influencer maybe as well.
Right.
Oh, okay, no, you have to use the guanciale because they want you to buy the guanciale, which is, this particular brand that sells guanciale, and you want to. So there is a bit of that. But having said that, as an Italian, I had, several several issue with food. For example, if you're invited at a dinner party or a dinner,
Right.
but oh, she's Italian. We're making pasta. It's like, no, I had to eat all sorts of horrible pasta. Uh,
Right. Right. I'd probably
and
be in that camp where I wouldn't want to cook you pasta.
exactly, I don't know why the people, but I remember. So I went to high school in Connecticut,
Hmm.
and I was boarding, so we had lunch there, and then the canteen they had pasta. Oh, you're not eating pasta. You're Italian. You're not eating pasta. It's like, yeah, that's exactly why. Mushy pasta coming out.
Yeah.
Plus it was during the 80s, so it's like really was not. So anyway, and so those are the things. But I mean, so we are so attached to our cuisine. I remember when I studied also in London, and so I did a master there, and we were like in the entire year we were like six Italian, and once every month or second month. I remember we would go to this place. It was far away. I don't even remember where it was. We'd take tubes and train and bus and things just to have a proper pizza.
Really?
We would really go, to big extent. So we are attached to our food,
Yeah.
but um, you know, um, so it is kind of a soft spot for us.
Yeah, I think it's like a comforting thing too. Like we always try to seek out what makes us feel comfortable. I know the one time when I was visiting Norway, I was with my mom and we just wanted pizza. We did. We just wanted pizza. And this was quite a while ago. And not every restaurant, like it's not like in my area here, I think every restaurant that opens, it's like a law that you have to make pizza. Like
Yeah, yeah,
it
yeah.
must be part of your menu or we're not going to allow you to open. But over there it was much more difficult to find. It was very expensive. It used um ingredients that I would have never thought of, like musk ox. That was one of the meats on the pizza. Um, it was different, but I'm seeking it out because, after being in the country for a while, you just want something that tastes like home.
Yeah, 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 yeah. So
Yeah.
which year was that?
Oh,
What
that was a while ago. Early 2000s.
early to that? Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was in Norway in early 90s. Yeah, mid 90s.
Oh, okay.
And I was not in Oslo. I was working on the offshore platforms on the North Sea. So I was like in
Right.
Stavanger. And I remember, starting to have a big Italian community with the oil, the American community.
Hmm.
And so they started to bring olive oil in the country,
Okay.
but they didn't know how to store it. And it was in the fridge, like the
Oh,
butter. So we had to go home, warm up the
warm it
bottle.
up. I can't tell you how many times I've put like a balsamic vinaigrette in the fridge and because I've forgotten and I'm just cleaning up after dinner and I put it in there. I'm like, oh, shouldn't have done that.
Yeah, no, it's
Yeah, that's
it
that's
is
funny.
yeah. But the funny thing is that, because I'm a food blogger and a YouTuber, I put out my recipe, and the misconception is such that I get comment. It was like, where is this comment coming from? So I had once, it was on Facebook. That was a couple of years ago, and I had a discussion with it was an American author, cookbook author, that was trying to convince me that there was no butter in the south of Italy in the 70s. And I was like, no, I was there. I always had bread and butter for
Yeah,
breakfast.
I think
There was,
everybody has that.
and the arrogance was like, no, you need to read my book. I was like, I don't need to read your book. I was there.
I've lived it.
And it's like, where is this coming from?
That's interesting.
Yeah, and then the other one was just a few days ago. This one is the last one. I get a comment. I have my gelato recipe is one of the mo best performing on my YouTube channel.
Hmm.
And it's a recipe that I used when I was living in Rome, because in the summer we would go to the south, and there gelato is really good. But in Rome in the 70s, the gelato was not great actually. There was only one place was Giolitti. So we used to make it at home. And my mom took cooking classes, just as a family. And so we had this gelato made. So this is a recipe that I have, from cordon bleu classes. And I get comments was like, no, this is not gelato because gelato doesn't have eggs as starch. I was like, where did you get this? Who said that?
Yeah.
And and I started asking also, whenever I had the ice cream, things in Italy, it was like, but is it? No, it's like no. Anyway, so all of a sudden I get a comment from a Turkish user in
Hmm.
Turkish saying, no, this is not gelato because I have watched several videos from traditional. And it's like, what?
Well, if it's said on Facebook, it must be true. You do know that, right?
It's like, okay. It's like, okay, fine, So he was like, well, if you don't like my comment, then delete it. It's like, no, I'm gonna leave it because people has to see the absurdity of
Yeah.
the things, and
Yeah.
how do you come up with this thing?
I
Um,
think it's funny. And I'm guilty of this too. Like one thing I do on my site is if I'm doing something that can be perceived as like an ethnic recipe, I always put a blurb in there about how I have adapted the recipe to fit the ingredients that I could find and to suit American tastes
yeah,
because
yeah.
which are very different, and I don't claim that anything I make is authentic unless it truly came from like my grandmother's recipe box and she made it,
Mhm.
or, from either side, whether it's Norwegian or Italian. So they would be the only things that I would have an authentic recipe for. But even those, I usually never claim they're authentic because I'm sure in some way we've Americanized them.
But yeah.
Yeah, like my Norwegian meatballs, I'm sure are very, very different from my great grandmother's when she came over and when she emigrated from Norway. And it's just the
But
way it
which
is,
is normal.
which is normal
It's
because like you
normal
said
because
before, you're getting ingredients that you have access to. There's certain things I don't have access to.
exactly, which is normal. That's what you do. You do the best with the
Yep.
ingredient that you have locally, which is the Italian principle, the cuisine for Italian really is seasonal, local,
Mm-hmm.
simple. This is
Right.
exactly what we. So in a way, I'll have you laugh with that. I agree with pizza with pineapple. Not that I would eat it. I would never eat pizza with pineapple.
Right.
But the pizza with pineapple was invented in Canada in the 40s.
Right.
I mean, what type of tomato sauce do they have? What type of cheese do they have? They probably
Yeah.
had zero flavor, so they had to put something. And they put pineapple.
Mm-hmm.
Some people liked it. That's fine.
And it's true, like that. I think sometimes that's how some of the best foods are born is out of
Yeah.
fusion and just working with what you have and, creating dishes like from your pantry, things that you never would have thought to put together. You, on a random Tuesday night, you're looking to make something for dinner and you pull random things out and you come up with something amazing.
Yeah. And it's all depending on the flavor because
Yeah.
the flavor could change depending on where you are, if you're north, if you're south. So of course you adapt with your local ingredient. But the thing though is that what I'm blaming all this, misinformation going viral
Hmm.
is really Google algorithm.
True.
Because because first of all, there are a lot of people that okay, they look at the keywords, they said, oh, okay, so let me this one is ranked high. So I remember there's one recipe, for example, it's called gnocco fritto, fried gnocco, okay, in Italian. I thought, oh, that ranks high. A lot of people are searching. So I'm going to do that recipe. And I've seen myself somebody that claims to be Italian and is not, Italian blogger, made the gnocchi and fried in the pan.
Hmm.
And it's not. It's a completely different recipe. And you have, it's a dough that it's fried So it's like a pita bread fried, and it's
Okay.
served with cut meat. So there's nothing to do with the. And then all of a sudden they realize it, and they changed the recipe on their site. But if you go back with Google history, you can see that actually what they had before it was
Right.
completely wrong.
Right.
And
And it's true, a lot of people do chase keywords and not really understanding the basis of like how the recipe originated or what it means.
they don't do the homework, and then
Right.
that misinformation goes, and then then Google algorithm thinks, okay, this is a big blogger, so everybody might maybe recognize the name, goes there, see it, and
Hmm.
then then Google thinks, okay, this is the right recipe to put
Hmm.
up, and it puts it up. So
Yeah.
for example, there was another one. Now with the latest changes, it's gone away. It's not number one anymore, but it was like it's still number like 3 or 4, and it was a risotto recipe from Bon Appetit. They was using sushi rice. And because people looked at the recipe and said risotto, sushi rice, of course they click on that. And so Google thinks that actually that recipe is right. And it was number one.
Huh. I
You
don't
know,
understand how that would work.
I
I'm,
tell you,
I'm trying to
it,
go through the science of risotto in my mind, and there's not enough starch in there.
no, it's like the risotto has to be, the sushi will become like a in
Gummy.
yeah, in Brazil they call it when the rice is overcooked and stuck there, the carnival rice
Oh,
because
yep.
they're all stuck together
All
like
stuck
the people
together.
at the carnival.
Yeah, that's funny. I'll have to remember that. But yeah, when you were talking about it, I'm like, if you're watching this on YouTube, you probably saw it on my face. And I'm like, I can't understand how sushi rice is going to work as
At the
risotto. It's going to be gummy. It's not, no, that's not going
no,
to work.
no.
Doesn't get that nice little creamy casement around the rice grain. Oh,
Yeah, yeah. But and now with AI, it's even
oh,
worse
with
because
AI, it's
AI is
worse.
being trained with that.
Hmm.
So now, for example, sometimes I use AI to rewrite different format of the recipe. So from the written recipe to write the script for the video, or
Right.
I have to readjust the format or the social media and everything. And I have to specify each time, only use the information that I'm giving you because it changes the recipe.
It
And it's like, oh,
does.
this is not how it's done.
It does.
So I have to, check every single time, make sure that it doesn't change it on me.
Hmm. I did a
Um,
couple episodes on the uh validity of AI content and how to use it in the kitchen. And I've also posted a couple things on my Facebook. I've gone off on a couple of random rants and it was funny because it was claiming to be an Italian recipe, and I can't remember what it was. It was like a big bowl of, oh, it was like a pasta, like penne pasta with some kind of creamy sauce and crispy chicken on it. And the
oh,
fork was in the middle and it's pulling it out, but on the fork, it was angel hair. But the bowl was penne.
Fun.
But if you looked at how many people liked and shared and commented on this recipe, this Italian recipe, and I'm like, do you people like not see what's wrong here? This is AI. Like if they can't even get the picture right, what makes you think it can get the recipe right? And I just don't think that the average consumer of recipe content, if you're not a seasoned cook, can understand where recipes can go wrong. And people are buying all of these ingredients to make this delicious looking recipe, and it's never
Yeah.
been tested and it doesn't work in the end.
And then, yeah, yeah. But the scary thing is that this is on recipes. But can
Right.
you, that's what is very scary.
Right. It can get very scary. Yeah, you have to be so careful with AI. And you're right. It's this kind of stuff that's training the AI bots. So AI almost like it doesn't know better.
No. You know what I did actually? I made a funny things on my, my tagline is your guardian chef, your angel in the kitchen.
Hmm.
And what I did actually, I cloned myself, and I have the AI saying the same sentence. So I have me saying it real, and then I have my clone saying it again. And I ran a test on YouTube and on Instagram to see if people would recognize it. It's interesting, like 30%
Huh.
didn't get it right.
Wow, that's interesting. I'll have to play around
Yeah.
with that. Yeah, it definitely does have its place, but you have to use it carefully and you have to be smart about it. And you just can't blindly trust anymore. You just can't blindly trust what you see on the internet, especially Facebook, Instagram. You have to trust, you have to follow trusted influencers who you know are going to give you quality information that you're looking for that has been vetted and has been tested. And I can get off my AI soapbox right now. I tend to get on that every once in a while, so I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I didn't mean to hijack the conversation with that, but
But it's true, and that's why I see that, we still have a voice there. But it's not easy
mhm,
nowadays because AI is they're pushing it on you.
mhm.
Um, so Pinterest, uh, Google, they're
Right,
putting eye on a lot of the
for
yeah.
sure. So how can we spot real true Italian food? If we're out, let's say we're out at a restaurant or something like that, and we're looking, maybe we are at like a fancy Italian restaurant and we're looking at the menu, how can we know we're getting something that's, truly as authentic as we can get here, without it being totally Americanized and ruined?
So one of the first thing, then I would use AI to read the menu and see if there are a spelling mistake in Italian. That's like that's an
I
obvious one.
I can't tell you how many times I wish I had a red pen on me when I'm in restaurants, and I'm always the one saying, there's a typo, there's a spelling error, that's wrong." That's just the proofreader in me, though.
That's really that's the first thing. That's
Okay,
first
so
thing you have
spelling
to.
errors.
Yeah, but then I think it's important to understand the principle of the Italian cuisine,
Hmm.
which, as I say, is the seasonality, the local ingredient. So, if you have mushrooms in the fall, that it's a proper, porcino. And if you have it in the spring, you know that there's something wrong there. Where are they coming from? I mean, sometimes they have to adapt to the
Right.
what people ask, but if the chef is really Italian, they will try to stick with their philosophy of
Hmm.
using local seasonal ingredients.
Right.
But and the quality of the ingredient, which it doesn't mean that it has to be expensive, because Italian cuisine is actually there are two different areas of the Italian cuisine that they merge together, and is the aristocratic cuisine
Hmm.
and the cucina povera, the poor people cuisine, and they're often overlap. And while, for example, the people serving the rich people will learn recipe and then transform it and substitute bread for meat or vegetable, whatever, then that recipe became so good that actually the aristocracy took it over and start serving it on the. So there is a merge there of the two things combined
I
together.
love that.
Yeah, and the one thing is the simplicity of the recipe, usually because they were using like local produce, so the farmers or the from the land, and so the quality of the ingredients. So the regional recipe, for example, the way that you see that how a recipe change between north and south of Italy is actually what they have locally.
Hmm.
So, for example, caprese salad
Right.
is never with balsamic vinegar in Italy because the mozzarella is from Naples, Capri, around Naples.
Hmm.
And the balsamic vinegar is from Modena, which is in the north. They were completely different. They don't merge together.
Right.
So if you have an Italian for dinner, don't serve mozzarella with balsamic vinegar.
Separate
So
thing.
so that is one.
So it's
Um,
just tomato, basil, and mozzarella.
Olive oil,
That's
good olive
and
oil.
olive oil and
Yeah,
some maybe
yeah.
some black pepper and salt, and that's it.
Yes, yes, and that's all. And the other thing also, for example, Parmigiano.
Hmm.
I've seen a lot of authors saying, sometimes we have some recipes where we put breadcrumbs on the pasta instead of cheese,
Hmm.
especially with fish, because we usually with the seafood we don't put cheese. We
Right.
usually put, yeah. And so it's like, oh, in the south they use breadcrumbs because they don't have the Parmigiano. Okay, now the Parmigiano, it's from Emilia-Romagna, and it's a cheese that was sold in Emilia-Romagna. Yes, it was export, but every single uh, commune in Italy had their own cheese. So they had
Right.
mostly had pecorino. You have pecorino romano, pecorino sardo, Siciliano. So that's what we would use.
Right.
And so not necessarily. So that's not. We were not. In the south of Italy, we were not going to pay 30 euro 100 grams for Parmesan because they'll have their local cheese.
Right.
So that was not a reason. The breadcrumbs were used to go with fish, for example,
Right.
because the fish was fresh. I mean, all the coastal. So the other things that the Italian cuisine makes is that wherever you are, when you go travel in Italy, for example, if you are up in the mountain, you'll have the local specialty is going to be meat or wild boar, for example, mushrooms.
Mhm.
If you're on the coast, then you have seafood that is very good. But you can't do the opposite. So, for example, in Rome, seafood was never great, or at least not the way I known seafood, because going every summers down in the south and being in a small town on the coast, we would always had fresh catch of the day.
Right.
And so they had to apply the same type of principle.
Mhm.
If you're looking for seafood Italian, that you have to make sure that you have a local fresh fish market.
Right.
Restaurant is supplying the
Hmm.
the fish.
It's like when you
Uh,
go to a landlocked state and they have a seafood restaurant, you know it's not fresh. It's coming in frozen from somewhere.
yeah, yeah,
Because if it's
exactly.
fresh, they have to go quite a while to get it fresh, truly fresh. Yeah.
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 And then the other things is like the simplicity of the dish. There, usually the spices are never too heavy. So like the misconception of having a lot, Italian eating a lot of garlic, that is not at all.
Hmm.
So actually, when we made tomato sauce, the way I grew up, was always you put the garlic, you fry the oil, but once the oil is infused with garlic, you remove the
Right.
garlic, and that's where the garlic. But if you have a lot of garlic, it's hardly really an Italian. Yeah, you have some sauces that are actually made just with garlic.
So what you're
Um,
saying here is garlic is not what's making it Italian.
no,
Like my
no,
grandmother always, my Italian grandmother always used a lot of garlic, but I think that that was just her personal preference,
yeah,
which is typical and I think in any type of cuisine, you can beef up those flavors that you truly enjoy, but it's
yeah,
not
yeah.
one specific flavor like that that is making a recipe authentic.
There is the bagna cauda that is only made with garlic, and
Hmm.
it's a garlic sauce, it's delicious and everything. But it's not something common within the Italian cuisine. That's
Right.
not what it defines. But it's just not what it defines having a lot of spices.
Hmm.
Because actually the spices started to become so during the Renaissance, with Venice trading with spices and things. So they started the aristocracy, the wealthy, they started using a lot of spices to show wealth, and then it became the opposite. That actually, with the unification of Italy and with the 18th, 19th century, too much spices was seen as too overdoing it.
Hmm.
So it's actually the opposite. So the cuisine became much more simple,
Hmm.
and so you might have few spices, but no, it's not like the Indian. The Indian will have a lot of
Oh
spice.
yeah. Yeah.
Um, and so, for example, garlic and onions, they're hardly seen together.
Mm.
You had either garlic or onion, or you have the sofrito, which is, to flavor the sauce, which is onion, carrots, and celery. So
Hmm.
that's kind of the base. But yeah, it's the simplicity really that
Right.
it's the big that recognize the big. But
Hmm.
then at the end, you adapt with the taste that you're there. You might have a chef in the States that is making something using an ingredient and it tries a new combination and it's
Hmm.
fine. You know,
Hmm.
it might works.
Yeah.
Um,
Some of my favorite restaurants, and this is what I always look for, is the ones that have the small menus. I really don't like when I go to a restaurant and I see like a 4-page menu. I would rather see a single sheet with maybe 4 or 5 options on it that are
yeah.
made well, number one. All things are made well, and it changes regularly. Like it's not like a not pre-printed, but it's not like this big laminated thing that they
Yeah.
use all the time. It's fresh ingredients, or not fresh ingredients, but yes, fresh ingredients, but it's constantly changing with how the chef is changing, how the, like you say, the seasonality is changing, things like that. They're my favorite places to eat because I love to try new things like that.
If usually when there is a fixed menu, it's a good sign.
Hmm.
You know, my father used to say when we were trying, so Italy was starting to build the other routes that went from south to north, and he was traveling a lot. And he would say whenever he saw a lot of trucks driver stop to eat in a place, then he knew he was a good. And it was like, you know, the grandma sitting there
Yeah.
eating the, but that was the simplest, the nicest, pure things. But another funny story that happened just a month ago. Here in France, so I'm in the French Riviera, so I'm saying is a place that normally you should be safe. So we went to eat in this restaurant, and usually I wouldn't order pasta outside Italy, but I mean, we are really close to the frontier. And I ordered this pasta with truffle because I just didn't want to eat. There was too much acidity on the other choice.
Hmm.
So, pasta with truffle, because there is truffle, you pay a high
Premium.
price,
Yeah.
premium price. Well, they bring this pasta, and the pasta was cooked in water without salt. So it's like you cannot fix that. That's it,
And you
finished.
can tell, and you can tell.
Yeah, and you cannot charge me 36 euro for that.
I did that once. It was Christmas Eve dinner, and I made pasta, and I just, in all the chaos that was going on, because it was a lot of seafood dishes, so they were last minute things. I
Yeah.
forgot to salt my pasta water. I'm doing a million different things, and I just forgot. I took one taste, to see if it was done, and I'm like, oh my God. I apologized all night long. I'm like, I'm so sorry. The pasta wasn't salted. I'm so sorry. The pasta wasn't.
That is one things you can fix.
There's no way. You can't infuse it back in.
Like the pizza dough with no salt, it's the
Yeah.
same thing. You can't.
I did a whole episode on the importance of seasoning your food because I feel so passionately about it. I feel so many people come to me, they're like, I don't understand why my whatever recipe doesn't taste good. I'm like, it's probably because you're not seasoning it. If
Yeah.
you're following the recipe but skipping the salt because of whatever
Yeah.
reason, it's not going to taste the same. You need the
No.
salt.
Yeah. That's one of the most important things, frankly,
Mhm.
to learn in cooking,
In any kind of cuisine,
in
you
any
need
kind
you
of
need
cook.
salt.
Yeah, you need the right amount of
Yeah.
salt. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm
Yeah.
curious to know from an authentic perspective, since you've lived all over in Italy and abroad, brajol. So that was my father's favorite dinner. And there was one time he told me that all he wanted for his birthday was for me to recreate his grandmother's brajol recipe. And I put a ton of research into it and came up with a recipe, but I'm dying to know.
Braccio-
How would you
It's
make it?
Bracciola.
Yep.
Bracciola.
How would you make it?
Okay, so a funny thing is, um, so we have a recipe where I grew up. We made a smaller side of braciole, which is much smaller. So the meat is cut like a small piece like that,
Hmm.
and put with breadcrumbs flavored with basil, cheese, and garlic, and you put a bit of cheese in the middle, and you roll it.
Hmm.
But there's no tomato sauce.
Oh, okay.
And it's grilled in the oven.
Ah,
And there are small bites like that
uh-huh.
that you can eat. And every time I had my 60th birthday party and my sister came over here. And the first thing I did, she came, I had her straight into the kitchen to make that for
Yeah.
the party. Yeah, that is delicious.
Yeah,
But that's another recipe that would change,
oh,
if
it depends where you're from because I've seen it with hard-boiled egg in it. I've seen it with golden raisins in it. I've seen so many recipes. So mine is very similar to what you described with the filling.
yeah,
I do mine. My butcher gives me very thin, I'm trying to get my hands on the camera,
yeah,
very thin steak, but I make individual ones. So they're probably like
yeah.
about that big. But I do mine in sauce. So I cook
Oh, you do yours in
I
sauce.
brown it first and then I simmer it in the sauce to finish it off. But it's very similar. The filling is very similar to what you described.
This is small. So was your family from?
Naples.
Ah, well, that's the best.
Yeah.
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 That there you have such a wealth of recipes and
Yeah.
um
My dad always joked, he's like, you're half a meatball because I'm half of an Italian meatball and half of a Norwegian meatball. He's like, you're only half a meatball. But yeah.
yeah.
So it was interesting. But I made that recipe for him and he was like, this is my grandmother's brujol. He's
Oh,
like,
really?
yeah, so felt really good. And now that he's passed, like we make it every year for his birthday. My brother comes over and we cook it
Nice.
together and prepare. But yeah, it's one of those recipes that I treasure.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. It's
It's
nice. But it's nice to remember people through
hmm
recipes.
That's the great
Um,
thing about food.
it is, yeah. So one thing that we have a lot is the liquor, making homemade liquor.
Mm.
And that is also because then you have those liquors that you take out, when at the end of the dinner party, and you have,
Hmm.
Giantonio, you have the
Yep.
different flavors and things to combine. It's nice because then you remember people through that.
Hmm. Yeah, for sure. I have a bottle of homemade limoncello that
I
somebody had given me in my freezer right now. I love that. It's so
love it.
good.
Yeah.
Yeah, for after dinner, but that is it's true. It's nice to be able to enjoy those things and food makes, food is I think is the basis of so many memories and just tasting something can bring you back to either childhood or just a very positive memory you had in your life. Or I mean, I guess it could go the other way too and go to a negative memory, but
Yeah.
we're going to be
Sure.
happy today.
Like the pasta with no salt.
Yeah. Like bad unsalted pasta.
Or the pasta from the can that I
Yeah.
was given to.
Yeah.
That I remember like a nightmare.
But true. I mean, I know we talked a lot. We dished a lot of dirt on people, Americanizing recipes. But I think too that's one of the best parts of a recipe is it's just a set of instructions. You can totally make it your own. And if you don't like how salty something is, that doesn't mean it's bad. It just means it's not for you and you can adjust things.
Yeah, yeah,
So,
yeah.
so many times, we get, as food bloggers, we get these negative reviews on our site because somebody didn't like, you know, my favorite one was, oh, what was it? I think it was a banana recipe, a banana dessert. And the person goes, ew, I hate bananas. This was disgusting. Well, then why did you make it? Because it clearly said it was banana. But But that's one of the things. If you don't like banana, maybe you can switch it out and change it from a banana dessert to something else, or, whatever the recipe is. That was probably a bad example because it's probably hard to make something banana, not banana. But you know what I mean. Play with it.
I
Play with the flavors, infuse flavors you like and make your own fusion recipe.
I had one also a couple of weeks ago. I had my Italian apple cake, which is like made mostly with apple.
Hmm.
The butter is very little, and I had this woman writing down, and actually that was a recipe that I had from my grandmother, and my mom still had the little paper. It was printed, so I posted the picture of the printed recipe in Italian. And there was this woman who came with the comments was like, "Well, your grandma knew better. You must take a recipe because you put the 100 gram, whatever, 100 gram instead of 150." I was like, "Well, actually, if you could read Italian, you would see that 50 grams were actually poured on the top." It's like, what do you think?
It is very hard. I
The
will say
arrogance.
it is, yeah, and it is very hard to translate a recipe. My aunt in Norway makes when I got married, she made me a traditional Norwegian cake called a kransekake. And it's like rings. I don't know if you remember this from when you were in Norway, but it's like rings of like a dense almond batter that's crispy and chewy all at the same time. And
Oh, yes.
they stack, the rings stack on top of each other and make a tower, and then they drizzle like a vanilla icing on it. So
Yes.
she made that for my wedding, and she when she brought it over, God love her, she carried it on her lap on the flight the whole way so that the
Oh
rings
my
didn't break.
God.
She made it in Norway and brought it over that way. Actually, I think it was her aunt that made it for us. Uh,
Oh,
so it was a very special part of my wedding, but I always wanted to make it. So when I was over in Norway, I literally followed her around the kitchen. She was making it herself, and I'm following behind her with my American measuring cups, remeasuring everything she did so that I could get the recipe down. So lo and behold, let's fast forward a couple of years. I'm pregnant out to here. I'm trying to make this cake for for Christmas because I wanted the traditional, Norwegian thing for my Christmas. And I had the recipe right, but what I didn't have was they have an attachment for their stand mixer that put this dough is extremely hard to push
ah,
it out into the shape to get it into these little rings. And I did not have anything that could even possibly work. And I was using like a cookie press. Well, you can't push it out. You just don't have enough arm and hand strength. I ended up, I made it. It blew up in the oven. I threw it. There was a whole scene that went down.
oh
It was
God.
not pleasant. So I'm like, I think I need that. I need that mixer with that attachment. And KitchenAid does not make it,
Which they only make in Norway.
which they only make in Norway, which has the wrong plug, and it's a whole thing.
Yeah.
So
My
sometimes you
favorite,
just have to go to the country to eat the traditional food.
yeah, sometimes you have to. My favorite cake in Norway was a Sussex cake,
Oh, I don't
which
think I've
is
ever had that.
you never had. Oh, fantastic! It's almond meringue
Hmm.
with the buttercream on top.
Ooh.
For me is like the best. I love Scandinavian dessert. Actually, for me, they are the. I have the recipe on my blog because it was like really a friend gave it to me. But nobody's looking for it.
Yeah.
Nobody knows about it. And
Yeah. Scandinavian food it's different. I think that there's just not a huge search volume for it. Like people they're more traditional. People have their family recipes, I think, and they keep to those. But yeah, there are things I'm always trying to learn is like making a kringla, which is like the cinnamon, it's like a cinnamon bread, braided bread. I try to make that at Christmas. Mine never comes out as good as my aunt's. Um, and I tell her that all the time. I'm like, I tried, but it's just not as good as yours. So when I go over there, that's one of my favorite things to eat.
yeah. Yeah, no, the best thing is to go in the country and eat it when you're
Hmm.
there. Because
Yeah.
sometimes you just can't reproduce the same thing.
Right. And just experience it and enjoy it
Yeah.
for what it is. And just know that you're not going to be able to recreate it exactly. And that's okay because now you have to go back and get it
Yeah.
again.
Good excuse for traveling.
That's right. That is absolutely right. So, any last thoughts you want to share with us, Laura?
One recommendation is for all the listener, do not cook Italian to an Italian coming. If you don't want to hear like a long thing, it's like if I invite you in Italy and I'll make a sloppy joe
Yeah.
or a hamburger and a steak and chips, you just don't. Um, I think every country has their cuisine, which is perfect for the ingredient that they have.
Hmm.
And so, yeah, I think no matter what nationality, the local cuisine, it's always the best.
Yeah, that is true. Well, that was some great advice there. So, Laura, if our listeners want to know a little bit more about you or want to connect with you, what is the best way for them to find you?
So my blog is yourguardianchef.com,
Hmm.
and I'm on Instagram also, yourguardianchef.com, on Facebook, and my YouTube channel,
Hmm.
yourguardianchef.com. And if you look in the community post, you can, no, actually, you can look in my short. I have the version of me and my clone.
I'm going to check that out.
You can check that out, and you can vote. There is a post where you can vote in the poll and see
Okay.
which one you think is true.
Okay. I'm definitely going to check that out. So that is awesome. And I will include the links to all of those networks that she mentioned in the show notes, so you can hop over there to quickly connect with Laura should you want to know more or snag some of her truly authentic recipes from her website. I know I've been making a list of ones I need to go check out myself. So thank you so much for joining me today, Laura.
Thank you for having me, Christina.
Oh, you're welcome. And thank you so much for tuning in to today's episode of Behind the Recipe. I hope you enjoyed our conversation, picked up a few tips, or even some recipes that you want to give a try in your kitchen. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe and leave me a review. And of course, make sure you share it with someone who loves food. Until next time, happy cooking, and remember, everything's better when shared in the kitchen.